Hey, what's up everybody? This is Semaan. Welcome to Top Producers Only, episode number 5. I've only put out a handful of videos so far. For those of you who have already jumped on board and have been viewing, sharing, and using, thank you so much. Just in my sampling here in the past few weeks, I've gotten somewhere over 7,000 views on the videos I've put out, so hopefully you guys are taking some of that information and using it in your businesses. I've gotten a few phone calls and emails from some sales agents and some companies, some business leaders that have already begun playing some of these videos in their early morning meetings or passing it around their sales floor to help people stay on track. So hopefully that's working for you. This episode is going to be extremely valuable on some stuff that I'm bringing to you to help fulfill my purpose. And if you remember correctly, really what my mission is here is to help millions of people become, or make it into that top 2% of their industry, or in general, the top 2% of the nation, especially for those of you who are in a direct sales type environment. But certainly this information applies to entrepreneurs, business people, managers, parents, in all walks of life, just because it's all about effective communication and self-awareness, understanding how you make decisions, how you raise your standards, and effective communication on how to communicate in your business or in your sale so that you get the outcome that you want a lot of the times. You guys know that I always brag about so many of these sales agents that I coach that have upwards of 50, 60, 70, 80% closing ratios in industries where, excuse me, the closing ratios are an average of anywhere from 8 to 18%. And that didn't happen overnight. So once again, I'm going to be giving you a lot of the material that I give them on a weekly basis, of course, on an ongoing basis to get them to the top of their game. And I want you to listen to this one, take some decent notes, because I'm really going to nail it out of the park with this topic right here. Episode number 5. Is your opening killing your close without you even knowing it? I'll prove it to you. And then I'm going to give you 3 game-changing tactics on what you can change today. All right, let's get started. Not everyone has what it takes to get to the top, but for those of you willing to do whatever it takes, this is for you. Okay everyone, I've said it a million times, one of the biggest mistakes I've made in sales was continue to work hard in my job without doing research about my talent or about my skill and developing that along the way. I always said if you want to grow your company, if you want to grow your business, if you want to grow your paycheck, you need to be a continuous student. You need to be a study of your art. And our art is communication. So if you're a loan officer or a retail sales agent or a fitness trainer or a sales manager, make no mistake, you shouldn't just be an expert in your product or in your industry. Really what you are, if you want to make it to the top 2%, is an expert communicator. So I'm going to go over some of those tools with you today. Here's some research that you should take into consideration. I learned to do a lot of reading and a lot of studying from different authors, nothing motivational necessarily, and nothing cliche. Inspiration is great, but I didn't necessarily use inspiration alone to get me to the top of my game in my business. What it really was is a study of communication. And communication is changing quicker than ever before. A lot of you who follow social media gurus or read topics of influence, modern day influence, consumer behavior, social behavior, and so on, dating, whatever it is, you know exactly what I'm talking about. So one of the most recent studies that was just released by, I'm not going to name names in this video just yet until I strengthen these affiliations, but by some Harvard business professors, was that they're starting to notice that one of the new social behaviors is that consumers don't want to be sold. They don't want the feeling of you making money on their needs. They're okay with you making money. They're okay with you getting paid for great service or whatever it is that you're building with them, but they don't want the feeling of you trying to make money on them. Hence, they don't want the feeling of being sold. Now, I started saying this 4 or 5 years ago because I've listened to thousands and thousands of calls and watched thousands and thousands of scenarios within my client companies and measuring the common denominators of the patterns that I saw taking place with a lot of their customers, and then what those outcomes were, whether it was early in their sales presentation or much later in their presentation. There's a lot of asymmetry or a lot of connectivity between multiple parts of your sales flow that you might not know about. The one I'm going to focus on today is the relationship between the introduction of your conversation and the close of your conversation, and some pretty cool freaking science about how you can make that, massively effective. And there's just a few things that you probably don't know. I'm a little excited to go over them with you. Okay, guys? So here's a couple things you need to take into consideration about modern consumers. Let me flip the page. Modern consumers, some new rules. You got to get it through your skull. If you're still opening and pitching and writing scripts like you did 5 years ago, you are outdated, okay? You might be closing a few deals. You might be able to muscle your customers into a close or into a decision. I'd hate to see your fallout ratios or your comeback ratios or repeat business probably isn't that great. This might be one of the reasons why. Let's get into this. So, rule number one for modern consumers is they don't enjoy being sold. We mentioned that. They don't want the feeling of you making money on their need or on their weakness or on their demands, okay? Think of like a retail situation where you walk into a store and somebody runs up to you right away and they're like, "Hi, is there anything I can help you with today? Can I help you find anything in particular?" Etc., etc., etc. They're giving you that feeling that, hey, it's my turn to make money on you. I remember one time I was walking through Nordstrom's that I've been shopping at for years with a handful of clothes, and the sales agent I've never seen before saw the clothes in my hand, jumped into the aisle, put his hands together, because that's one of their sales patterns that drives me crazy. It's a resistant pattern. And he jumps in and he goes, "Is anyone helping you with that today?" As if I'm supposed to feel some type of customer service or sincerity with that. No, that was like 10 years ago. "Is anyone helping you with that today?" That was like, I truly want to help you. Can I help you? These days, "Is anyone helping you with that today?" means, "Is anyone else getting paid on all of those clothes today? I'd like to get paid on you." People don't want the feeling of being sold. And if you're a consumer, which all of us are, I'm sure you felt the same way. Start using some of this intelligence in your business. Number two, here's what modern consumers really want. They want clarity and certainty, particularly about their decision. Listen to me. They want clarity and certainty about their decision with you, not necessarily your product or the outcome or the result or the benefit. Let me say that one more time, because I seem to be spending hundreds and hundreds of hours explaining this to my clients every year. They want clarity and certainty about their decision, not how amazing your product is or how amazing your company is or how long you've been in business, etc., etc. Those things are nice, but they fall by the wayside as least important things. People buy products today and subscribe to companies that have only been around for months or years. Some of the biggest products and biggest companies that people are committed to and loyal to haven't even been around that long and hardly ever brag about their product. Take that into consideration, okay? So you've got to think about this, because a lot of times in the intro of your presentation, that first 90 to 120 seconds where people are forming 80% or more of their opinion about working with you, about trusting you, about relying on you, about your credibility. They're making about 80% or more of that decision within the first 90 to 120 seconds. So if you're creating resistant states in the first 90 to 120 seconds, you might get cut off halfway through your sales presentation immediately right there, or put your customer in a resistant state of mind where they tell themselves something like this in the very beginning: "No matter what happens today, no matter what they say, I'm not buying from this person." Crazy, huh? Now, some of your customers verbalize that right away and go, "You know what? I don't have time for all this right now," or "What's your name? I'll reach out to you in the future," or "I just called to get some information. Can you shoot me an email?" What that means is you, my friend, Mr. or Mrs. Sales Professional, is a victim of some old school bullshit that you're still using in your sales flow. So, as promised, let me go over 3 tactics that you want to take into consideration if you want that first 120 seconds to actually contribute to the momentum to your close and how that works. And then right afterwards, I've got a really cool bonus of what the psychology is behind this and how influential it's going to be on your sales. I mean, each one of these tactics that we go over can make a pivotal change in your pipelines, in your paychecks, and most passionately, especially for me, is the quality of your life, what you can contribute, how much you're saving, planning, freedom, and so on, progress in general. So let's take a second to go over some of these new tactics that you may want to try in your industry. Now, you're going to have to mold these tactics to your industry. As you guys know, I'm pouring my heart out to people who may be in dozens of different industries. But you've got to try to understand these things and reflect on them, okay? You've got to try to role play them in your own environment with your own product, whether you're on the phone or in person, whether you have a 6-week sales cycle or a 60-minute sales cycle. I want you guys to put some of the work in, all right? So here we go. Let's keep moving. Here's what I want you to do. Try these things today, practice them this week. Realize that you're not gonna perfect them right away. I've written scripts for my clients over and over and over, and we all contribute. A lot of the sales agents end up getting involved once they start to understand the strategies, the engineering, and the psychology, and sometimes we'll redo the words that we wanna say, even in one sentence, hundreds of times before we feel it's most effective. That can go over the course of months, but this is a good start for you today. 1, greet. Let's get the greeting out of the way. Whatever the appropriate greeting is for you in your industry. Thank you for calling. Pleasure to speak with you. How's your day going? Whatever it is, get the appropriate greeting out of the way. If you're calling about something you've received in the mail, my name is Joseph, what is yours, right? Whatever the case may be. Here we go. Number 2. Typically, in the first 30 seconds or 60 seconds of the call, companies or sales agents want to sort of give the person, shed some light on them, get them excited about what I can do for you, about what our service does for you, about what the outcome could be for you. And that's actually a dying tactic. It makes the person feel like something might be too good to be true, or this person's already selling me. And if you get them to get into that I'm being sold state, remember, they have tons of experience in that, and they're really good at putting themselves into resistance states almost right away, where they go into shopping mode, or possibly even comparing you to a bad experience that they've already had with somebody who had similar language in a similar industry. Horrible. We want to completely recondition this customer so that they really enjoy a fresh, unique experience with us. So instead of bragging about your company and its experience and how many people you've helped, or what your product is and its benefit and the outcome for the customer, kick back a little bit. Explain the purpose of the presentation. Excuse me, explain the purpose of what's going to happen today on this call or between each other. Not necessarily what the product is going to be like, or what you're going to prove to them, or what you have to demonstrate for them, or how good you are at your job. All right, even your title can do that sometimes. People are still calling themselves senior specialist and executive something, senior this, licensed that. And when you're a senior in modern day communication, a lot of times it makes people feel like you have a lot of experience in manipulating people. So be careful what you say about yourself in the beginning also. Explain the purpose of what you would like to accomplish alongside of your customer or your prospect today, or during this call, or during this visit. Explain the purpose of what you feel would be nice to accomplish, and make sure it's not their business or their money or them buying your product, but how possibly your product or your service might serve the need in their life. So you want to practice writing this. Explain the purpose of what you'd like to accomplish during your evaluation, during your conversation. Got it? Let's go on to number 3. Describe the process. Go ahead and briefly, in 1, 2, or 3 sentences, describe the process of how that's going to take place. What are step 1, step 2, and step 3 might be, etc. All right? So if you have, let's say, a 60-minute conversation on average, or 30-minute conversation on average, and again, you've got to mold this so that applies to your industry. A lot of you have to freestyle some of this because you work in a store environment or a retail environment, and you've got to kind of like, react quickly, and that person may be pressed for time or whatnot. For those of you in a service business, or when people are calling on leads that have been generated, and you actually know exactly what the person's circumstances are, or what they're hoping to accomplish at the end, or what their need or what their pain is, you know what the outcome is. All you need to do is describe the process of how you get to whatever it is you're trying to decide on. Potentially whether or not the service or the outcome or the process is right for them, whether or not it's a right fit, and what those steps are, step 1, step 2, and step 3. In doing that, you don't have to be exactly descriptive, but more so to let them know that there is a process that's going to take place, and it will help us to make a good decision. All right? The other thing you might want to include in the first 120 seconds of that phone call is to frame the decision. whatever the outcome is, however it's going to take place, you have a very unique opportunity to frame what's going to happen at the end and what the conditions of that decision might be. So that way the customer understands that if you have a satisfactory conversation, or if you're able to identify together that they're an ideal candidate, or that there's a need here, or there's something that they're interested in, or that serves them well, or that they'd enjoy, that together you'll decide what that is and you'll make sure it's the right decision for the customer. Simply like that. So work on the language of these things. Explain the purpose of your conversation today. Describe the process that you might want to go through. Frame the decision together. Frame how this decision might look, or what the expectations might be if and only if this is a good fit for your customer. Make sense? That way your customer very early on starts to realize that by the end of the conversation, they could possibly feel that they have clarity and certainty about what they do. Let me mention this one more time because I've said this to you guys before. At the end of your call, if your customer lacks clarity and certainty about whatever decision you're trying to get them to make during the call, if they lack that, then they're going to tell you that they need to procrastinate for whatever reason because they have not satisfied their appetite for a good decision on the call. They feel that they need to go and evaluate that decision on their own time. And that probably means you don't understand modern consumer behavior. That's okay. I'm here to save your freaking life. Let's keep going. Moving on. Love the sarcasm. Do this, we got these done. All right, so here's what I want to say. Before I jump into the bonus, which is my deep psychological understanding of why these things need to happen a certain way, I do all kinds of different research so that I can combine things that may have nothing to do with your industry, tactics, strategies, research, psychology, neurology, linguistics, and so on, and package them in a way that makes sense for our business, for our growth. You guys know that I was in sales for roughly 16 years before I had this epiphany that time is going by and I'm stuck in this bubble where I'm just like 90%, 96% actually, to be technically correct, of the rest of the people in this nation, racing every day, trying to improve the quality of their life or the quality of their pay, while statistics show that only 2 to 4% ever really make it and keep it at the top consistently. A lot of you know what I'm talking about. You've had massive roller coasters up and down in your income like I used to years ago, and you're looking to correct that. And basically what it means is you need to update your software and continue to practice and work hard on what works every day and study that. I'm here to help you provide that. So I'm gonna go into the bonus real quick, and